The Nexarian High Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Chen Wei's hologram materialized before them. Even through the projection, the council members' bioluminescent crests flickered with barely concealed disdain. Their ornate chamber, with its soaring crystal spires and quantum-suspended platforms, made the simple blue hologram seem almost primitive by comparison. First Speaker Valerian adjusted his ceremonial robes, iridescent scales shimmering under the chamber's ambient light. "Welcome, representative of Earth. We have reviewed your species' application for diplomatic relations with the Nexarian Concordat." Chen maintained perfect composure, hands clasped behind her back. She knew what was coming, she'd seen that look of technological superiority before. "While we appreciate your interest," Valerian continued, "we find your civilization's development concerning. Your primary means of space travel still relies on chemical propulsion. Your ships lack quantum shielding. And your energy generation methods are remarkably inefficient." A younger council member, his crest glowing bright orange with excitement, interrupted. "You still use projectile weapons. Actual physical projectiles. We abandoned such crude methods millennia ago." Chen smiled slightly. "We find that sometimes the old ways have their merits, Counselor." "Merit?" The young Nexarian scales rippled with amusement. "Your species is barely past its industrial age. What could you possibly offer the Concordat?" "Perspective," Chen replied simply. "And perhaps, insurance." Valorian's inner eyelids flickered with interest. "Insurance? Against what?" "The unknown, First Speaker. The universe is vast, and even the Concordat's impressive technological achievements may not account for every possibility. The chamber's quantum systems chose that moment to flicker, just for a millisecond." None of the council members seemed to notice, but Chen's smile widened fractionally. The quantum probe she'd launched from Earth's embassy ship had successfully mapped their entire defense grid. "We understand your civilization has never faced a serious military threat," Chen continued. "Your technological superiority has made conflict obsolete within your sphere of influence. It's admirable. Precisely why your fixation on military preparedness is so primitive," the young counselor interjected again. "True civilization moves beyond the need for weapons." Chen nodded thoughtfully. "Tell me, how do your quantum shields fare against kinetic impacts?" The question caught them off guard. Valorian's crest dimmed slightly. "I don't understand. Why would anyone use physical weapons against quantum barriers?" "Because, First Speaker, sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective. Your shields are magnificent at dispersing energy weapons, but have you tested them against a simple tungsten rod moving at relativistic speeds?" An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. Chen pressed on, her voice gentle but firm. "Humanity learned long ago that peace isn't achieved by abandoning the capacity for war. True peace comes from being so well prepared that war becomes unthinkable. Are you threatening us, Ambassador?" Valorian's voice carried a note of concern. "Quite the opposite, First Speaker. I'm offering you a partnership. Earth doesn't want war, we've had enough of it in our history to last several lifetimes. What we want is stability. Collaboration. The exchange of ideas." She gestured to the chamber around them. "Your quantum technology is breathtaking. We'd be honored to learn from you. In return, perhaps we could share some of our alternative perspectives on defense." "Alternative perspectives?" Another council member spoke up, their crest showing patterns of curiosity. "Sometimes the best shield isn't an impenetrable barrier, but rather the knowledge that any aggressor would face overwhelming consequences." Chen's hologram shifted slightly as she moved closer to Valerian. "Humanity's technology may seem primitive to you, but we've learned to be creative. Adaptable. We plan for the worst while hoping for the best." The chamber's quantum systems flickered again, longer this time. Several council members looked up in confusion. Chen pretended not to notice as her probe completed its analysis. The Concordat's defenses were impressive but dangerously specialized. A single focused attack on their quantum grid would leave them completely exposed. Perhaps, Valerian said slowly, we have been hasty in our assessment. You raise some interesting points, Ambassador. Thank you, first speaker. And if I might add, Earth's application for diplomatic relations isn't just about what you can offer us, but what we might be able to offer you. Sometimes the best innovations come from unexpected places. As the council chambers erupted in discussion, Chen's hologram maintained its serene smile. The probe had confirmed her suspicions. The Concordat's defenses, while advanced, were a house of cards. They had no backup systems, no redundancies, no contingencies for quantum technology failure. They had achieved peace through technological superiority alone, never considering what might happen if that superiority was challenged. Humanity, on the other hand, never put all its eggs in one basket. Even as Earth's ships appeared primitive on the surface, they carried a mix of technologies, both cutting-edge and time-tested. They were ready for anything, precisely because they assumed nothing. The first seeds of partnership had been planted. Now Chen just had to help the Nexarians understand that true strength came not from having the most advanced technology, but from being prepared for its failure. In the darkness of space, Earth's embassy ship maintained its orbit, its simple appearance belying the array of weapons and countermeasures hidden beneath its hull. Peace through strength, it was a lesson humanity had learned the hard way. With luck, the Nexarians would learn it through wisdom rather than necessity. 3 months after Earth's diplomatic admission to the Nexarian Concordat, Dr. Sarah Zhang stood in the Helios Deep Space Observatory, staring at data readings that made her blood run cold. The facility, built into an asteroid at the edge of human space, was officially a joint research station. Unofficially, it was one of humanity's most sophisticated early warning systems. Running the analysis again, her AI assistant announced. Confirmation in 3, 2, 1. The holographic display crystallized into a pattern she desperately hoped was wrong. Send it to command. Priority Alpha. 12 hours later, Sarah found herself briefing a joint human-Nexarian emergency council. Ambassador Chen sat beside First Speaker Valerian, their contrasting appearances highlighting the differences between their species. Let me understand this correctly, Valerian's crest pulsed with skepticism. You detected this threat using gravitational wave analysis. Not quantum sensors. Sarah nodded, bringing up a three-dimensional map of the galaxy's outer rim. We maintain a network of different detection systems. Quantum, gravitational, electromagnetic, even old-fashioned radio. The quantum sensors showed nothing, but the gravitational readings are unmistakable. Red dots appeared across the map, spreading like a cancer. Something is moving through the void between spiral arms. Multiple somethings. They're massive, they're organized, and they're deliberately avoiding normal spacetime. A Nexarian scientist, his scales shimmering with dismissal, spoke up. Impossible. Our quantum detection grid covers the entire sector. Nothing could slip through unnoticed. Unless, Chen said quietly, they exist in a state your sensors aren't designed to detect. Sarah expanded the display, showing the object's trajectory. They're using gravity itself for propulsion. Sliding through the wrinkles between normal space. Your quantum sensors are looking for disturbances in quantum fields, but these entities are manipulating something more fundamental. How did you even discover this? The Nexarian scientist demanded. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Because we never stopped looking the old ways, Sarah replied. Humanity learned long ago not to rely on any single detection method, no matter how advanced. We maintain every sensor type we've ever developed, from simple radar to quantum arrays. The display shifted, showing the entity's estimated mass. Valorian's crest dimmed in shock. Each one is the size of a small moon. And they're heading straight for Concordat space, Sarah confirmed. At their current velocity, they'll reach the outer colonies in 6 months. The chamber erupted in argument. Nexarian officials demanded more quantum scans, refused to believe their detection systems could miss anything so massive. Chen caught Sarah's eye and nodded slightly. They'd expected this reaction. First speaker, Chen said, her voice cutting through the chaos. Remember our discussion about alternative perspectives? This is precisely why Earth maintains what you once called primitive technology. The unknown doesn't care about our advancement. It doesn't follow our rules. Valorian's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of deep distress in his species. What do you propose? Let us help you prepare. Your quantum technology is incredible, but these entities clearly know how to bypass it. We need to establish layered defenses. Multiple detection systems. Weapon platforms that don't rely solely on quantum principles. You want us to step backwards? The scientist's scales flushed with indignation. Return to projectile weapons and crude sensors. No, Sarah interjected. We want you to expand sideways. Keep your quantum technology, it's vital. But supplement it. The more diverse our defensive capabilities, the harder it will be for any enemy to counter them all. She brought up new data, showing temporal distortions around the entities. Look at these readings. They're not just moving through space, they're manipulating time itself. What happens to quantum shields when spacetime is distorted? The scientist's crest drooped. Quantum barriers relied on stable spacetime to function. If these entities could warp gravity itself. We've already begun mobilizing Earth's deep space fleet, Chen added gently. Our ships may look primitive to you, but they carry weapons that don't care about quantum fields or temporal distortions. Sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective. Valerian stood, his ceremonial robes catching the light. How long have you suspected something like this might come? Humanity has always prepared for the unknown, Chen replied. Not because we knew what was coming, but because we knew we couldn't know. The universe is too vast, too strange, to assume any single type of technology will protect us forever. In the silence that followed, the red dots continued their inexorable advance across the holographic map. The Nexarians were beginning to understand, true strength wasn't about having the most advanced technology. It was about being ready for anything. Sarah watched the first speaker's crest shift through colors of fear, resignation, and finally determination. The Concordat was about to learn what humanity had known for centuries. Peace wasn't just about preventing war, but being prepared when the universe itself became the enemy. In the depths of space, the mysterious entities continued their approach, unaware that their careful avoidance of quantum detection had already given them away to humanity's more primitive, but far more diverse, sensor network. The Nexarian colony world of Luminara burned. Admiral Helena Santos watched from the bridge of the EFS Vigilant as quantum barriers shattered like glass, temporal distortions ripping through the Concordat's most advanced defenses. The entities, now visible as massive crystalline structures that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, moved with terrifying purpose. Status report, she ordered, keeping her voice steady despite the horror unfolding on the tactical displays. Nexarian quantum grid is down across 3 sectors, her XO reported. Their automated defense platforms are offline. Colonial shields are failing. The entities they're consuming the quantum energy itself. Helena nodded grimly. Earth's warnings had come too late. The Concordat had spent centuries perfecting their quantum technology, but they'd never considered what might happen if an enemy could turn that same energy against them. All ships, execute Protocol Omega, she transmitted. Conventional weapons only. I repeat, conventional weapons only. The human fleet had arrived just hours ago, 30 ships that the Nexarians had once dismissed as primitive. Now they were Luminara's last line of defense. On the surface, First Speaker Valerian watched in despair as his civilization's most advanced weapons proved worse than useless. Each quantum blast fired at the entities simply made them stronger, their crystalline forms absorbing the energy and growing larger. Speaker. A junior aide rushed in, scales pale with fear. The human ships, they're moving to engage. Valerian hurried to the command center's observation window. The human vessels looked absurdly simple compared to Nexarian ships, their hulls marked with crude chemical thrusters and what seemed like primitive armor plating. But as he watched, those simple ships began an attack unlike anything he'd ever seen. The EFS Vigilant led the charge, launching what appeared to be solid metal projectiles at relativistic speeds. The entities, so effective at absorbing quantum energy, had no defense against simple kinetic force. The first impacts sent shockwaves through their crystalline structures. Multiple hits confirmed, Helena's tactical officer reported. Entity shields are ineffective against physical ordnance. They're responding. The entities turned their attention to the human fleet, temporal distortions reaching out like tentacles. But humanity had prepared for this too. Activate temporal anchors, Helena ordered. The technology was new, reverse-engineered from studies of natural black holes, but it created bubbles of stable spacetime around each ship. The entity's temporal attacks slid harmlessly past. They can't touch us, Helena transmitted to the fleet. Commence saturation bombardment. All weapons free. What followed was a display of military might that left the Nexarians stunned. Railguns fired depleted uranium shells at impossible speeds. Conventional missiles carried warheads designed to create localized gravitational singularities. Clouds of primitive chemical explosives detonated in patterns that disrupted the entity's dimensional shifting. From his command center, Valerian watched in awe as humanity's outdated technology systematically took apart threats that had rendered his civilization's most advanced defenses useless. This is why they kept the old weapons, he whispered, understanding finally dawning. This is why they never relied solely on energy shields or quantum fields. The entities, for the first time, showed signs of confusion. They had evolved or been designed to counter quantum technology, to feed on the energy of advanced civilizations. But they had no defense against tungsten rods moving at relativistic speeds or precisely calculated nuclear detonations in normal space. Admiral, Helena's comms officer called out, "We're receiving a transmission from the surface. The Nexarians are offering their remaining quantum generators as bait. They want to create a trap." Helena smiled. The Concordat was learning. "Tell them we accept. All ships, prepare for synchronized attack pattern Delta. Let's show these entities what happens when you combine quantum physics with good old-fashioned explosives." In the hours that followed, humanity demonstrated why they had never abandoned any working technology, no matter how primitive it seemed. The entities, drawn to concentrated quantum energy, found themselves caught in overlapping fields of conventional fire. Unable to process the combination of quantum manipulation and physical destruction, their crystalline forms began to fracture. As the battle turned, Valerian's aide approached him again. "Speaker, we're receiving reports from other colonies. The humans, they're deploying something called conventional defense platforms across our territories." Valerian watched another entity shatter under combined quantum and kinetic assault. "Tell them to deploy everything they have. The Concordat formally recognizes that we were limited in our thinking." On the Vigilance Bridge, Helena allowed herself a small smile as the reports came in. The entities were retreating, their perfect strategy against quantum defenses useless against humanity's mixed approach. "Admiral," her XO said quietly, "the Nexarians are requesting our help to redesign their entire defense doctrine." "Tell them we'll be happy to assist," Helena replied, watching the last entity flee from what it must have thought would be easy prey. Sometimes the best way forward is to remember what worked in the past. In the aftermath of the battle, as cleanup crews used simple chemical rockets to collect entity fragments for study, humanity's message became clear. True strength wasn't about having the most advanced technology, but about having the right tool for every possible job, no matter how primitive those tools might seem. In the 3 months since the Battle of Luminara, the Helios Deep Space Observatory had gained some unusual additions. Quantum processors hummed alongside old-fashioned radio telescopes, while Nexarian scientists worked side by side with human researchers, their bioluminescent crests glowing with curiosity as they studied what they once considered obsolete technology. Dr. Sarah Zhang smiled as she watched first speaker Valerian run his scaled hand along the surface of a traditional radar array. The leader of the Concordat had become a frequent visitor, eager to understand the philosophy behind humanity's technological diversity. Fascinating, he murmured, inner eyelids flickering with interest. Such simple principles, yet we never considered maintaining these systems alongside our quantum network. The quantum network is still superior in most ways, Sarah admitted, bringing up a holographic display of the defense grid they were building together. But superiority doesn't matter if an enemy can simply bypass it entirely. The display showed the combined defensive network now protecting Concordat space. Quantum sensors operated alongside gravitational detectors, traditional radar, and even simple optical telescopes. The entities had taught them all a valuable lesson about the dangers of technological monopoly. We found more of them, Valerian said quietly, his crest dimming. In the historical archives. Previous civilizations that disappeared after achieving quantum supremacy. We thought they had simply moved beyond our understanding. Sarah nodded grimly. But they were attacked by the same entities. Their quantum-only defenses failed just like yours nearly did. And now we understand why humanity never abandoned its primitive technology. Valorian scales shifted in what Sarah had learned was their equivalent of a rueful smile. You were preparing for threats you hadn't even encountered yet. The observatory's main screen lit up with new data as another joint patrol reported in. Human ships now regularly operated alongside Nexarian vessels, their contrasting technologies complementing each other perfectly. What the humans lacked in quantum sophistication, they made up for in versatility and raw firepower. Admiral Santos has requested additional resources for the Joint Defense Force, Sarah noted, bringing up the relevant reports. The entities may have retreated, but they'll be back. And they won't be alone. Indeed. Valerian moved to the quantum interface, his movements practiced now where they had once been uncertain with the simpler technology. The Concordat's industrial bases are already being retooled. We're implementing your concept of redundancy across all our systems. The display shifted to show the new shipyards. Nexarian vessels were being retrofitted with human-designed kinetic weapons alongside their quantum arrays. Defensive platforms now carried both energy shields and physical armor. Every system had a backup, and every backup had an alternative. There's something else, Sarah said, pulling up a new dataset. We've been analyzing the entity fragments, combining quantum scanning with traditional spectrometry. Look at these patterns. Valerian leaned forward, his crest pulsing with surprise. They're artificial. Designed. Exactly. Someone or something created them specifically to prey on quantum-dependent civilizations. The entities aren't just a natural threat, they're weapons. The implications hung heavy in the air. If the entities were weapons, there was a wielder out there somewhere. A force that understood quantum technology well enough to create its perfect predator. The Concordat votes tomorrow on the Joint Defense Initiative, Valerian said, his voice carrying new urgency. After seeing this, I expect unanimous approval. We need everything you can teach us about military diversity. Sarah nodded, already pulling up training protocols. And we need your quantum expertise. Together, we can create defenses that no single strategy enemy can overcome. Outside the observatory's windows, a human destroyer passed in formation with a Nexarian cruiser. The destroyer's railguns and missile tubes looked crude next to the cruiser's quantum weapons, but that contrast was now their greatest strength. Your people have a saying, Valerian observed, watching the ships. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Something like that, Sarah smiled. Though personally, I prefer, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. The observatory's sensors continued their eternal watch, quantum fields working in harmony with radio waves and gravitational sensors. Humanity had brought more than just additional technology to the Concordat, they had brought a fundamental shift in thinking. In the vastness of space, other quantum-based civilizations were starting to take notice. Reports were coming in of diplomatic requests, of cultures beginning to question their own overspecialization. The entities had intended to prey on advanced societies, but instead, they had sparked a revolution in defensive doctrine. Humanity's primitive approach was becoming the new cutting edge of survival. 1 year after the Battle of Luminara, Ambassador Chen Wei stood before the Galactic Council, a gathering that would have been impossible before the entity crisis. Representatives from 12 quantum-based civilizations filled the chamber, their varied forms united by a common purpose. The Nexarian first speaker Valerian, now serving as council chair, gestured for silence. His crest glowed with quiet pride as he addressed the assembly. We gather today to formalize the Defense Cooperation Treaty. A year ago, many of us would have dismissed such an alliance as unnecessary. We thought our quantum technology made us invulnerable. The entities proved us wrong. But humanity showed us a better way. Chen stepped forward, her simple dress uniform a stark contrast to the ornate quantum tech garments around her. What we offer isn't revolutionary, she began. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We bring the past, carefully preserved, continuously refined, and ready to complement your future. The chamber's holographic display activated, showing the combined fleet now protecting civilized space. Quantum ships flew alongside vessels carrying traditional weapons. New hybrid designs incorporated both technologies, creating defenses that were as versatile as they were powerful. The entities were designed to exploit our overspecialization, a Meridian delegate observed, their crystalline form vibrating with concern. We still haven't found their creators. No, Chen agreed. But we're ready for them now. Every advancement in quantum technology is now paired with conventional systems. Every shield has a physical backup. Every sensor array includes old and new methods. She gestured to the latest detection data. Already, we're seeing results. 3 entity incursions have been stopped in the past month alone. They can no longer feed on quantum energy when it's protected by kinetic weapons and conventional explosives. A Gentil representative, their gas cloud form swirling with interest, spoke next. Our scientists report that combining human military doctrine with quantum physics has opened new research avenues. We're developing technologies that would have been impossible before. Progress through diversity, Valerian said, his inner eyelids flickering with amusement. Another human concept we once dismissed as primitive. The display shifted to show the new defense platforms being deployed across multiple sectors. Each one contained quantum processors and simple computers, energy weapons and physical armaments, exotic shields and basic armor plating. They were monuments to the principle that true strength came from versatility. The entity fragments have revealed something else, Chen continued, her voice growing serious. Their creators didn't just understand quantum technology, they feared it. They feared what quantum-based civilizations might become. So they created a weapon to keep us divided, specialized, vulnerable. But they didn't account for humanity, Valerian added. A species that refused to abandon its history, that saw strength in maintaining every working technology they'd ever developed. Chen nodded. We never forgot the lessons of our past. Every war, every crisis, taught us that overspecialization was a weakness. So we kept everything that worked, from simple projectiles to quantum fields. The chamber filled with murmurs of agreement. The entity's creators, whoever they were, had made a crucial mistake. By targeting quantum technology exclusively, they had created the perfect opportunity for humanity's balanced approach to prove its worth. The treaty before you today isn't just about military cooperation, Chen concluded. It's about embracing a new philosophy. One that recognizes that true advancement doesn't mean abandoning the past, but building upon it. Every technology has its place. Every method has its moment. One by one, the representatives signaled their agreement. The treaty was ratified unanimously, a first in galactic history. As the session concluded, Valerian approached Chen privately. "There's something we haven't told the others yet," he said quietly. "Our deep space probes detected unusual quantum signatures beyond the galactic rim." "The entity creators?" Chen asked. "We think so. They're watching us. Watching how we've adapted." Chen smiled. "Then let them watch. Let them see civilizations united, quantum and conventional technology working in harmony. Let them see what happens when you try to exploit a weakness, you might just create something stronger." Above them, the combined fleet continued its patrol. Human destroyers flew alongside Nexarian cruisers, Meridian battleships complemented Shanti carriers. Each vessel carried the best of old and new technology, a testament to the principle that had saved them all. True strength wasn't about having the most advanced technology. It was about having the wisdom to keep everything that worked, the humility to learn from the past, and the courage to face an uncertain future with every tool at your disposal. The entity creators had sought to prevent the rise of a quantum-based alliance. Instead, they had forged something far more powerful, a civilization that embraced all forms of technology, united in their diversity, and stronger for their differences. Humanity had brought more than weapons to the galaxy. They had brought perspective. And in doing so, they had helped create something unprecedented, a future where advancement meant addition, not replacement, and where strength came from unity rather than superiority. The watch continued, but now they watched together, quantum sensors alongside radar, energy weapons beside kinetic guns, the future and past working as one to protect all they had built. And somewhere beyond the galactic rim, those who had created the entities began to realize their mistake. They had tried to keep civilizations vulnerable through overspecialization. Instead, they had triggered an evolution in thinking that would reshape the galaxy forever.